Refugee Boy by Benjamin Zephaniah.
Alam's father came from the Amhara tribe of Ethiopia. His large forehead, light brown skin, and large eyes were typical of his people, as was his short jet black curly hair. It is said that the Amhara people have Arab as well as African blood flowing through their veins, and the facial features of Alam and his father did reinforce that theory. He was a man who tried to smile as much as he could to please others, but he took the business of life very seriously. In the taxi, he sat straight back throughout the journey and looked silently straight ahead, while Alam's eyes explored the black taxi's interior. Even the back of the taxi was a source of wonder for Alam, but his excitement was contained as he could see that his father wasn't in the mood. He looked deep in thought. To keep his mind occupied, Alam tried to practice his English by reading the notices in the cab, whispering the words as he read them. No smoking. Licensed hackney carriage. Red light indicates doors are locked. This seat belt is for your personal safety. After a while, his attention turned to the road outside the M4. It was so straight and wide. The ride was so smooth, no potholes, no wild bends, just the sounds of the engine and the tyres on the road. They had travelled for only about 7 miles when they turned off the motorway and headed towards the village down Major's Farm Road. It suddenly went quiet. There were very few cars on the roads and no farms to be seen, just a few empty fields. As they neared the village, Alam looked towards all the semi-detached houses for any sign of life. He could see the houses, but where were the people? All the houses had cars in the driveways, usually 2, and many had cats in the windows, but no people. He looked up at the chimneys and wondered what they were there for. When they entered the village, things became a little busier, but still remained very orderly. And now Alan began to see animals. There were only dogs that people had on leads, but he was sure that he would soon see the local goats and chickens. The taxi pulled up outside the hotel. It was an old-fashioned building that looked to Alan more like a big house than a hotel. After all, he had seen the Holiday Inn in Addis Ababa, and he thought that that was a big skyscraper, so he expected English hotels to be even bigger. Here you are, Govs, said the driver. The Palace Hotel. What a lovely little ass. Alan and his father couldn't understand what he said, but they knew that they had arrived. I beg your pardon. By now, Alan's father had dropped his pseudo-posh accent. The taxi driver pointed to the house and spoke louder and slower. That is a lovely little ass, I said. Oh yes, replied Alan's father as he raised the corners of his lips a little bit in order to represent a smile. It is a nice building. How much money shall I pay you? 18 quid and 50p, boss. It was a family-run 3-star hotel with a pub and restaurant. The walls of the reception area were covered with paintings of idyllic English countryside scenes that led all the way up the oak stairs. Alan and his father stood at the desk for a few minutes waiting for somebody to come. After checking out all the paintings and reading all the notices, Alan's father rang the miniature brass bell that was on the reception counter. Immediately, a man appeared from the room behind the counter, a very big, bearded man who Alan thought looked very much like the customs officer they had not long left, except this man had a smile and no uniform. What can I do for you, sir? He said, towering above both of them. We have a twin room reserved for us. My name is Mr. Gallo. I spoke to you on the phone last week. The big man flicked through the pages of the registration book on the desk until he found the right page. Oh yes, that's right, Mr. Kello. A twin room for you for 4 nights for you and your son, he said. Adam struggled to understand his accent. Did you have a pleasant flight? Yes, it was a little crowded, and we didn't get much sleep, but it was quite pleasant. Well, we have given you a room in a very quiet part of the hotel where you can sleep for as long as you like. Even the trains are quiet here. Follow me and I'll take you there. As they walked up the stairs to the room, the man kept talking. Only 4 nights with us? I'm afraid so, said Alam's father, following behind him. You'll need more than 4 days. 4 days is all we have, Alam's father said abruptly. The big man stopped suddenly, forcing Alam and his father to stop suddenly behind him. I'm just trying to be friendly, sir. Alam's father looked hesitantly towards Alam, then towards the big man. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm a bit tired. I think I need some sleep. My apologies. Actually, we weren't sure how long we were going to be staying in the area. I have been told that there are many interesting places to see in England, so we may move around a little. Oh yes, there certainly is much to see, said the man, continuing up the stairs. It's not just England, you know. If you get the chance, you should visit Scotland. I've lived down here for most of my life, but I was born in bonny Scotland. When I want a holiday, where do I go? Scotland, of course. I've never forgotten my roots. The room was medium-sized and spotless. As the big man was telling his father about checkout and breakfast times, Alam headed straight to the window to see what kind of view they had. Sadly, it was just the hotel car park and the backs of some other buildings, and if he put his head right up to the window and moved his eyeballs as right as they could go, he could just about see the train station. They spent the evening in the hotel room. Alam's father was much quieter than usual and spent most of the time reading a London guidebook while Alam watched television. It was a Saturday night and most of the television channels were transmitting game shows or dating shows. Alam thought it was all very bizarre. He was trying his best to understand what was being said, but most of the time he couldn't keep up with the pace of people's speech. From the moment that he landed, he noticed that English he was hearing was very different from the English he had been taught at school. The customs officer had sounded different from the taxi driver, and on television everyone seemed to have his or her own accent. When Alam couldn't take it any longer, he switched off the television and went to look out of the window again. Nothing had changed, except it was now dark. He turned to his father. Nedje minid no yemi nisero? English, his father replied abruptly. Speak English. I'm sorry, father. What will we do tomorrow, father? The holiday really starts tomorrow, young man. We will get a train into London and you'll see all those famous places that you've seen in the books. And so it was. The next day, they got a bus from Datchet to Reading, and then a train from Reading into central London. In central London, they boarded a sightseeing bus, and that took them to all the places they had seen in the books. Marble Arch, Piccadilly Circus, Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square, the Houses of Parliament, and the Tower of London. Back home, Alam had lived only in small cities or towns, and although he had been to the Ethiopian capital, he had never seen anything like London. Cities back home were busy with cars racing everywhere, but here it was so busy that the cars were standing still in traffic jams most of the time. The fumes emitted by the cars made Alam cough. He wondered why everyone else wasn't coughing until he got used to it and stopped. When Alam was small, he would always say that he wanted to see buildings when he grew up. To make buildings when he grew up. Now he's sophisticated enough to say that he wanted to be an architect, so the buildings in London really caught his imagination. What he really liked about the city was the way the old and the new stood side by side. He thought this was also true of some parts of Ethiopia.